morning, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings, and thank you for checking out the progress on these chickens. So the commentary side of everything is going to be limited. The primary thing that I'd like to address is no matter where we're at with the release of the various files, whether it's JFK, RFK, MLK, or Epstein, one thing to keep in mind is no matter where we're at in history, granted the first three that I listed off, the likelihood of individuals being alive still that are even tertiarily connected, meaning that they are just, their name is mentioned, the likelihood is every day becoming less and less likely that they're still alive. The final one, Epstein, there is that connection that expectation that a good percentage of them are still alive. And to keep in mind, what we're looking for, in my opinion, are the prosecutions of individuals that are connected. If they are somebody with whom these vile creatures, the had lunch with argument, should they be held to suffer on the same level as Sarah Ferguson's ex-husband, if I'm not mistaken, as to the one who is notoriously been named. So just keep in mind to use your own due diligence should this information become made public, that it's the prosecutions and actual prosecutions that are done. With the ouster of various people from the SDNY, Southern District of New York, FBI office, which has been alleged to be the most corrupt, there is now potential that something will happen. But keep in mind also, Pam Bondi, or Bleach Blonde Bimbo as I refer to her, was the Attorney General in Florida while Epstein operated in Florida, and she did nothing. She was more concerned about gun grabbing than she was with prosecuting his activities. So we may not be out of the woods yet. Those that are interested in holding those in positions of authority, power, and whatever accountable, finding justice for those that were victimized, continue your efforts to call on these releases. I'm going to segue from that. Oh, and Jay Woodward from Woodward TV had some intriguing opinions on it that would be worth checking out. Now to segue to this next part. I started listening to it and decided this is something that I was interested in having an opinion expressed on it. Stephen James, 3 days ago, we are being leveraged out of our future, making the middle class obsolete. So July 18, Stephen James, we are being leveraged out of our future, making the middle class obsolete. And he talks about ghost job postings within the first few minutes. It is my opinion that ghost jobs are data mining efforts. It doesn't take much to go on LinkedIn or tells you how long it's been for me. The various websites that do job postings. Now some of them are a little bit more involved. I imagine to be able to post your job through your state's employment board, there might be more criteria to be submitted, but now I haven't been on LinkedIn and the last time I logged into LinkedIn was long enough to send a message to somebody about something that which had happened, and that was approximately 5 years ago. And before that, it had been a significant period of time. I'd had my private investigator business profiled on there, and I interacted with various entities that were also private investigators or investigators of some level or another, whether it was digital forensics or death investigations. I don't recall if I interacted with anybody that was a forensic accountant or anything on that level, but they had all kinds of investigators there to connect. But over the last 10 years specifically, I've limited my social media use to making these, getting kicked off of X, and then resorting to posting it on Gab and Truth Social. But Stephen James talks about, here in the first couple minutes, as I said, about ghost jobs. And it's my opinion that it's data mining. Where else are you going to have easy access to one's name, be able to approximate their age, and what it is that they do with their address and their phone number? I mean, everything's there. You're able to tailor-make a campaign that directs towards their industry or towards their expertise, as well as to have direct access to their contact information. From what I remember with LinkedIn, there really wasn't much of anything in terms of criteria. You know, they make you jump through hoops to make an account, but beyond that, they want you to pay to be able to see who's looking at your profile, but I'm not going to give Reid Hoffman any money.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to extend a special welcome to those of you that are new to the channel. I know there's quite a few of you, and also to those of you that are the returning subscribers. It's great to see you guys again. It's been a few days since I did my last video, so I'm going to try to dive right into it today. But before I do, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It helps with the algorithm and helps get this out there a little bit further. Without too much further ado, let's go ahead and talk about what I wanted to talk about today, which is our future has been leveraged away from us. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, it just feels like you always have bad news, Steve, and to a certain degree, I feel like it's important to address these sorts of things. We don't want to live with our heads in the clouds and pretend like certain things aren't happening, because if you don't address that something's happening in the beginning, how can you ever hope to fix it? Just plain and simple. So let's get right down to it. I mean, how has our future been taken away? And I'm going to start today with the job market and fake job postings. Now, I've had people ask me about this before, you know, what in the world, why would anybody ever have a reason to put up a fake job posting? Why would companies out there be making fake job postings? There are tax incentives behind this. Data gathering and data farming that can ultimately even be sent and used as far as selling to other third parties. Very nefarious, I agree, and literally the worst thing you could possibly do to somebody who's trying to find a job or become gainfully employed. Now,
I hadn't really directly considered the tax incentives, but when you look at decades of what's called affirmative action, and more recently DEI, or DIE, the diversity, inclusivity, equity nonsense. Essentially, a form of discrimination. Yeah. There are tax incentives. I've discussed this in the past, and there are federal reimbursements. Those that grew up in the 80s may be familiar with it. The DARE, the Drug Alcohol Resistance Education. To give you an idea of how ancient I am, that wasn't a factor, but I knew people that had siblings that participated in it. Where do you think the funding came from? It wasn't just, oh, golly gee, let's just start a national campaign on, you know, good intentions. No, it came from, institutions, government institutions, to fund this operation that created chapters, in each jurisdiction and subchapters and so forth to promote this agenda. The police department was involved and incentivized to be involved, as well as other agencies and entities and organizations. That's how all this stuff works. If you haven't figured it out based off of my breakdown of the court system, that making rulings a specific manner, everybody makes the comment about, well, look at Europe, look at jolly old England. Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to go there. You make a meme, you go to jail. Oh, look at that, Germany. They say memes are forever, words just disappear. Now keep in mind, there is an incentive. Europe is not America, but they have their own thing. There is a financial incentive for them to take action against certain people. This may not be written down in memo form or in their legislation or their court precedents or their whatever it is that's being used, but there is a directive somewhere that states in order to qualify for the financial incentive program, you have to meet these criteria. And until you start to recognize our legal system is based upon financial incentive payments, or rather financial incentive bonus, financial bonus incentive payments, until you start to recognize that is how these court orders come about, you're not going to understand what's happening. And as I've stated, there are people such as It's Me, Fatima, who have documented this at length and developed videos to walk one through how to identify specifically California, and this process can be adapted for your jurisdiction. I don't recall if I did it for Oregon or Washington, but I was able to adapt first procedures to one of those states in the Pacific Northwest. You may need to watch it a few times to understand how it operates and how to do it, and I would strongly recommend having a notepad to write out the steps, so that way when you come across something that has changed, you can make the update. But the documents exist. These people, these so-called lawyers and judges, are financially benefiting. And when Mr. James here talks about there are financial incentives for them to create ghost jobs, it is to show that, oh look, we're understaffed. And however that works for getting corporate deductions. It's the same concept. They create these artificial loopholes that show that they are hiring a position specifically for a woman or other designated group. And that includes veterans. Nothing against veterans, but veterans are part of that filtering group. But it's primarily for women and so-called minorities. So keep that in mind as he's talking about that. So I hadn't thought about that when I first brought it up, but he touches on it. So if you haven't figured it out, and I've probably said this multiple times, our society is ran by those who reward its administrators with financial incentives that are arbitrary.
With our unemployment rate supposedly as low as 3 or 4% right now, why why in the world would anybody be doing this at all? I mean, it just seems